And they promise to treat everyone who doesn't vote in Republican primaries. So, yeah, I joke, but power that exists in the hands of government will be exercised. We go back to that EPA endangerment finding. You know, we're an energy state, a coal state, among other things. And you know what they're doing to that industry now? Not something that people in this part of Virginia think a lot about. They aren't denying permits. They just aren't answering. So you know what you can do when you're ready to start a coal mine and they won't answer whether you get a permit or not? Nothing. Nothing. So if they don't like your business, but you have to get a permit every year from the EPA to open it because you produce CO2, what happens when they don't grant you your permit? Because you're not at the front of the line, because let's face it, they don't like you. You're on the list. All of you holding the flags, literally. They don't like you. So what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen? You remember when Bill Clinton was president, who got audited by the IRS? You remember that? You think that was random? No, it was the arbitrary exercise of government power. It was tyranny in action. And when the EPA has this kind of control over, this building is big enough to have to get a permit. That one's big enough. That one's big enough. Well, they aren't all going to get permits. And you know what it costs right now to get a permit under the Clean Air Act? About $125,000 a year. So if you think that that sort of regulation doesn't affect you, you're right unless you eat or use energy. All the rest of you have nothing to worry about. But for all of you, your cost of living is going to go up, your standard of living is going to go down. Your opportunities for your children are never going to appear. It isn't that they're going to disappear. The opportunity for them to come into being will never exist because of a crushing burden by our own federal government, squashing opportunity for all Americans to create, to start businesses, to grow them, to make the decisions they want to make in their own lives about how to conduct themselves. That's what this is about, and that's what I mean when I talk about that liberty pie. When government makes those sorts of decisions and increases its own power in that way, your liberty, your freedom is reduced. And when you boil it down, if you look back across the history of this great nation, that liberty and the unleashing of the ability, creativity, and power of the American people over 200 years has been what has put us in the forefront of the world. It is why we are the greatest nation in the history of the world. Why wouldn't we protect that? Why wouldn't we protect that? So when the federal government passed that health care bill and required each of you all and many others to purchase health insurance or face penalties, it conflicted with Virginia's Health Care Freedom Acts. And I see the Article 5 sign back there. Article 6 of the Constitution contains the Supremacy Clause, which you're all familiar with, has federal laws trumping state laws, except when the federal law is unconstitutional. And we assert in Virginia, Virginia asserts that this bill is unconstitutional because the Congress doesn't have the power under the Commerce Clause to compel you to buy a product from another American or a company. They can't do it. And we believe the courts are going to uphold us. They're there to protect the Constitution. They don't always do it, but I think they will here. And let me boil it down to a non-legal explanation for you. If you're the judge, think about what you're being asked to do, because this is unprecedented. There's no example in our history where in the name of regulating commerce, the federal government has been able, not that it's even tried, they have never tried to order us to do something, to buy a product. If you're the judge It isn't just that you have to rule against Virginia. You have to rule against 18 other states in Florida, and you have to be ready, willing, and able to say that ordering Americans to buy a product from somebody else is allowed under the Constitution. I think that the judges fundamentally are going to have a hard time accepting that. They're going to have a hard time accepting it. It's unprecedented because no Congress has ever thought before that they might have this power, that they've never tried this before. The fact that it's never been done before is evidence that Congresses before this one knew they couldn't do it. They knew they couldn't do it. So what do we do about it? What do we do about it? Well, you know, I find it very ironic. The president signed the health care bill on the 235th anniversary of Patrick Henry's "Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death" speech. Is that amazing? It didn't occur to me until 9:30 that night, I was actually on a conference call with some Tea Party folks, that we filed our lawsuit that day about 1 mile from where he gave that speech. And I know who's on the side of Patrick Henry's version of liberty. We're on the side of liberty. And when you boil this case down, it isn't about health care. It's about government power, protecting the Constitution, and fundamentally, it is about liberty. And we are going to fight to protect liberty, and where better than in Virginia, given our history in defending it here. Where better? Now, this whole process is going to take a while to play out. And we need your support. There is,
you got it.
I believe, yeah, I know I'm talking to a friendly crowd, and I appreciate that. Not all the crowds I have are friendly. Your local paper hasn't been too kind. But I know that's a shock to many of you. But my local paper hasn't been too kind to me either. But that's okay. That's all right. You know, last year when I was running for Attorney General, I ran very clearly and very explicitly on the notion of reining in the federal government. Nobody who's seeing what we've done with the EPA and the health care bill and other things should be surprised at any of it. We're very clear. There's no hide the ball with Ken Cuccinelli. What you see is what you get. And we are answering the question